is the gender a massive point of relevance here? Should you train for your gender or should you train for your goals? We're cracking straight on with the video. Krissy Cela, the ultimate upper body workout for women. I'll be the judge of that, because apparently all I do on this channel is talk about women. That's actually completely valid, because 91% of my audience are women, and most of my videos are actually sent to me to look at, so we're gonna have a gander. So Krissy's already spoken about bits and bobs like supersets and whatnot, in addition to talk about the reps and set volume. We're doing 4 sets of 8 to 10 on everything apparently, which to me, again, not my preferred rep range. So again, it's fine, but I think just isolating everything to 4 sets of 8 to 10 is a bit limiting. If at any point you decide you like the video, then please let me know you like the video by liking the video, and maybe even by tickling the button down below to subscribe to the channel. But if you don't want to do any of those things, just dislike the video and tell me you hate me. First movement today, push press. So starting with the overhead movement, which is interesting. So for upper body workouts, if you're looking like purely targeting the upper body, again, it really looks at what your weaknesses are and what you want to develop. If you're looking at just an overall generic upper body workout, typically I'd start with a flat pressing movement, like a chest dominant pressing movement or an incline pressing movement. Don't know if I necessarily start with a shoulder press myself. The thing about standing overhead movements, like obviously the push press here, is first of all, when looking at like muscular development, momentum is what we want to avoid. So momentum doesn't have a massive carryover to the development of muscle, because again, to develop the muscle, we're looking at really working the muscle. When we're utilizing momentum, we're reducing how much the work the muscle has to do and increasing how much work body English or body movement has to do. Therefore, reduces how effective that movement might be for hypertrophy, so building muscle. I actually covered this in the glute guide. Actually, we talk about kettlebell swings and whether they should be implemented into lower body workouts for hypertrophy. The other thing with an overhead press, like a standing press, is for the context of muscular development, again, I'd favor something seated, because obviously, unless you want to do a standing overhead press, that's preference. If you're looking at a standing movement, you've got to consider your core and other areas that might give out first. If you're doing seated, you're going to eliminate the core or reduce the core involvement and actually maximize the shoulder involvement. So again, I'd opt for a seated variation myself. Inverted bent over row. Inverted, interesting. I just call it the bent over row myself. Again, the thing is, obviously the bent over row is fine. If you want to include it, you definitely can. Similar to the push press, now we're kind of very much involving the core here and the lower back. What's going to give out first? Your lats or your upper back, or your lower back? In most cases, I'd probably say your lower back might fatigue before your lats or upper back muscles would. When you adopt like an underhand grip here, that usually does imply the focus is going to be more towards the lats. Underhand grip actually brings in a lot more of the biceps, so if you could do any rowing variation, I'd choose a neutral over an underhand grip, because again, same range of motion for the lats, but again, less bicep involvement. The other thing we've got to note is range of motion. Your lats are at their shortest position, which means their contraction has peaked and they cannot get shorter once your upper arm is in line with your body. The upper arm is well behind the body, you see. Once the upper arm starts coming behind the body, the lats are no longer doing that, and more mid to upper back muscles might be jumpy in. So again, personally, instead of like a bent over row like this, I'd probably opt for like a chest supported variation, like a chest supported neutral grip row for the lats, or maybe a chest supported upper back row, depending on what you're looking to target. Again, not saying it's a bad movement whatsoever, just saying if you really want to kind of maximize how much the muscles you're looking to target are working and minimize how much other muscles are working, you probably want to opt for something with support. So incline chest press, yeah, big fan. Again, personally, I'd probably opt to do this as a first movement, not a third. Again, if you're looking at actually muscular development, you kind of want to minimize how much arch you're adopting here, because again, when you start arching quite a lot, I'm not saying Krissy is, but a lot of people may arch excessively on the incline, you actually turn it into more of a flat press, so it's not really that incline. Range of motion is going to be key here. Go as low as you can. Krissy is stopping a bit shy. I would try and get all the way down if you can. Again, your range of motion is very much going to be dependent on you and your abilities. If this is Krissy's range of motion, I respect it, but again, I would typically opt to go as low as you can. Elbows, they're a bit flared. Actually, they're okay. We kind of look to tuck the elbows about 45 degrees or so. Again, you don't have to, it's just preference. But the orientation of the pec fibers do run at about 45 degrees, therefore it makes sense to press in the same direction as the pec fibers are running. You don't have to, it's just stating that it might be an option. So far, what I would change is I'd put the chest movement first, great chest movement, incline dumbbell press, fantastic. Then go into back, maybe a different back movement, more chest support, and then go into shoulders afterwards, again, maybe seated to reduce core involvement. So it's actually not a bad start. Okay, so it looks like we're going to another back movement. This is good in the sense that I quite like push, pull for upper body workouts. again, you don't have to, it's just quite nice. When you do a chest variation, your shoulders might be fatigued. Then you go into a back variation to allow your anterior delts to recover a bit. Then you go back to another pressing variation. So again, if you went chest, shoulders, again, it's quite anterior delt fatigue heavy, whereas you separate chest back, shoulder back, then again it gives you the anterior delts a bit of chance to recover, which is nice. I like that. So lat pull down's fantastic movement, brilliant movement, arguably one of my favorite movements. I actually spoke about this in the Ryder and Beth video. Again, the cable front raiser, you don't need to. Genuinely, in this case, you really don't need to, because we've got a push press in which you're very much anterior delt heavy, and then an incline dumbbell press, which is also going to very much include the anterior delts as well. Then we're doing a cable front raise, which is more anterior delt. Again, it's very anterior delt heavy. I'd opt, again, firstly, I wouldn't superset myself, that's just preference. I'd opt to choose like a side raise variation instead of the front raise here. And I would actually place the lat pull down on its own. Avoid gripping using your thumbs. This is interesting. This is actually a really interesting point. I have mentioned this before. Although gripping not using your thumbs could lead to a greater sensation in the back, your thumb is not going to transfer to what your back is doing here. So oftentimes when people say, oh, don't grip using your thumb, it's actually because they say, oh, it reduces forearm involvement and it makes me feel the movement more in my back. If you want to reduce forearm involvement, wear straps. I would often recommend that for back movements anyway. And although it may increase sensation when you're pulling, that's probably psychological, because again, your thumb has nothing to do with what you're doing with your back. Thumb over, thumb under, completely up to you. All I'd say is whatever you choose, go with it, just wear straps. That's good. That's good technique. I like that. It's like good stretch. Yeah, try and get as low as you can, as close to the chest as possible. The first half's going to be very upper back focus. Lower half's going to be very lat focus. Move with the movement. Yeah, I actually respect that. A little bit of body English. Nothing crazy. Just a little bit of momentum. Just help the movement come along. Yeah, I respect it. This is good. We're not even going to talk about the front raise. We're binning it off. I think most people probably don't need to do any front raise variations unless your anterior delts are really a weakness for you, which most people, they probably aren't. So me, I'd say let's ignore the front raise. Let's put it in the bin, send it to sleep, and wake it up if we ever need it in the future. Probably not going to. Okay, so we've got single arm row now. Good. Although not my favorite lat movement, it's definitely a fine one. Absolutely, I like it. I don't love it, but I do like it. We kind of want to be as horizontal as possible. Again, a lot of elbow movement. The elbows are really coming far back. It's going to again reduce the effectiveness of the movement on the lats. And again, you're probably doing this more for your lats, but the argument is if you're this upright, you're actually kind of doing more of like an upright row. It's going to be very upper back heavy. So again, I try and be as horizontal as possible, keep your elbows as close to the body as possible, and don't let the upper arm come past the body, and you're fine. Okay, so we're looking at the lateral raise. The first one I'll note there, remember this, slightly bend your elbows. Remember that in a second. So we're raising directly out to the side here. Interesting, with quite a heavy bend in the elbows actually. In all honesty, I'll give you my opinion on this, and it'll tickle me this. When you are doing a lateral raise, what we want to do is, the way I kind of like program it is, I say, imagine you're trying to touch the walls. So you try and make your arms as straight as possible, make your arms as long as possible. And then instead of doing out to the side, we're going to bring in about 45 degrees or so the scapular plane. So rather than being out here, we're actually going to raise here. Doing so with straighter, I'm not saying you have to be straight, but straighter arms will reduce how much the traps come into it. So oftentimes when you're doing these lateral raise variations, you might say, oh, my traps really hurt. I really feel my traps, a lot of neck tightness here. That's probably because you're raising directly out to the side. When I raise out to the side, what happens? I shrug. When I raise out at 45 degrees, a lot less shrugging is occurring. So it's just a tip and trick. The lateral raise is a fantastic movement. I'm a big fan of it. But what I would say is, like I said, scapular plane, don't raise out to the side, straighten the arms a bit more, and you're laughing. So 4 sets of everything we've done 4 sets of everything. That's 28 sets, assuming we're doing 4 sets of everything. To put in perspective, I usually do anywhere from probably about 8 to 12 working sets per session. Again, I don't think the order is necessarily bad in the sense it goes shoulder back, chest back. Spice me up this. How about this? Incline dumbbell press to start. Very nice. Then we go into a rowing variation, like a lat dominant row, a chest supported row, for example. Then we go into the shoulder press variation. So let's say a seated dumbbell shoulder press. Then we go into the lat pull down. Very nice. Then we go into a side raise, like a lateral raise. Then what I might actually tickle is maybe chuck in like a pec deck fly or another chest variation in there. Then you've got 2 chest, 2 shoulder, 2 back. You're going to get some decent tricep work from the pressing. You get some decent bicep work from the pulling. If you really wanted to, you could actually spice up to another degree. You could go chest, back, shoulder, back, tricep, bicep. Again, 6 exercises, 2 sets of each, 12 sets total, less than half the volume included here. Train 2 if not close to failure, and you're probably going to see pretty good results. Ultimately, what you include in your upper body workout and how you structure it is really going to be depend on your goals. But again, there's no right or wrong. I'm just kind of stating a lot of volume in this workout, not a big fan. The rep range, a bit limiting. I like a bit more variety there, anywhere from let's say 5 to 10, 5 to 15 perhaps, who knows. Movement selection could be better. I'm not a big fan of the rows or the push press. I'd swap those out mainly, and the front raise, bin that front raise, send it it to the abyss, doesn't need to come home. As you market it for obviously the ultimate upper body workout for women, you're going to ask yourself, is the gender a massive point of relevance here? Should you train for your gender? So should different genders train differently, or should you train for your goals? My opinion, I opt for the latter, is that you should train for your goal, not for your gender. But the one thing I will give Krissy is her training has improved a lot. From when I first looked at her many moons ago to now, it has improved a lot. The movements, push, press, barbell row, again, she's not a bodybuilder. She's not looking at purely focusing on hypertrophy, so I can't get the inclusion there. But from like a technical standpoint, I don't think you need to row beyond in line with the upper body, things like that. And also, I just really appreciate Krissy actually recommending women work out their upper body, because that is a big thing in the industry where a lot of women do just do lower body only workouts. Probably not the best thing in my opinion, although it is your body, it's your choice. It can potentially lead to some imbalances and things to consider. So it's nice to see her encouraging upper body workouts. I respect it. But that is it. That is the video. As always, all the links are linked down below in the description, in which you can either apply to work with myself, Ryder, or Beth on a one-to-one basis, in which we will coach you. You can either go to the group coaching, in which you can train at the gym, train at home, or work out like me, all run through the Train Hero app for less than your Netflix subscription. Or you can have a gander at any of the TFNL guides, so upper body, glute, home workout, and growth guide, all linked below as well. Very exciting. But other than that, thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating the ever-changing light, because so much light is coming through this door at the moment. And thank you for tolerating the video.